New details tonight about the brutal murder of Lana Brown Bradley, her youngest son accused of killing her. But it's what investigators found after searching for the retired educator that is so shocking. We must warn you that some of the details from the crime are graphic.
We found where he started to dispose of her at, and we had to get excavators out to get the rest of her.
So he spread her body parts over the property?
No, he had body parts in the suitcase, and then he flushed the rest down the toilet. He took his time and he dismembered her in a way where he can discard the pieces down the toilet.
A mother's love should be the safest thing anyone can count on. She carried him, cared for him, and gave him food. She stayed awake through his sick nights, dried his tears, and shaped her entire world to make sure he had a good life. As a grown man, she opened her doors to him, offering him a roof, her company, and endless chances. And in return, he took her life. It wasn't a split-second decision made in anger. He acted with purpose and left no doubts about his intentions. He made a plan, cleaned up after himself, and tried to make it difficult for anyone to find what was left of her. That wasn't a moment of losing control. It was a deliberate decision. Her name was Lana Brown Bradley. She was 62 and lived in Natchez, Mississippi. Lana dedicated her life to teaching. She stood in classrooms shaping kids who grew up, or started families of their own, and even brought their children back to sit in her class one day. She was the kind of person everyone in the community looked up to, reliable, admired, and cherished. When her teaching days ended, she found new meaning in writing poetry. She wasn't just dreaming of publishing, she was working on it. She was building something new, looking ahead to what was next. The day before she died, she walked into a courthouse to start the process of evicting her youngest son, Zachary Lavel Jackson Jr. She needed to find a way to keep herself safe. That choice ended up being the last big one she ever made. When investigators reached the house on April 4th, 2026, they discovered a scene that the Adams County Sheriff said would haunt him forever. The floors had been scrubbed spotless, but every room reeked of chemical fumes. Inside the bathroom, they found Zachary still at work on what he had started the moment he ended her life. He was trying to make her disappear. The sheriff stood in the doorway and saw what was left of her. Her body had been dismembered. Some parts were stuffed into a suitcase. The rest he had tried to flush away, treating her like she was nothing. The woman who brought him up, the woman who gave him a home, the woman who showed so many kids how to read, think, and blossom into who they could be. He tried to shove her down a toilet. Stick with me through this story. Lana Brown Bradley deserves more than just a headline. People need to know what went on in that house and why it happened. If this story touches you, and it should, hit like right now. Share it with someone who should hear it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that before this video wraps up. We share stories like these so people like Lana are never forgotten and never become just another file in some drawer. She was a mom, a teacher, a poet, and someone took her life in the most awful way possible. Investigators uncovered many details revealing what the family experienced and what the people in Natchez are still working to understand. It all begins with the warning signs that had appeared well before April 4th. She spent decades teaching in Adams County classrooms, creating something few ever achieve. A legacy? It wasn't about money or fame. It lived in the lives of kids she helped shape, kids who turned out better because she was there for them every day. When she retired, she didn't hit pause. She started writing poetry, picking up a pen instead of slowing down. She wanted to publish her work. Lana Brown Bradley wasn't finished making her mark. She still had so much to offer. She also had 3 sons. One of them was still at home sharing her roof. Zachary Lavel Jackson Jr, 29, had been staying at his mom's house on Melanie Road in Natchez for a while. From what people said, their relationship wasn't in a good place. Relatives shared with investigators that Zachary was threatening his mom. These weren't small arguments or uneasy moments. These were real threats, serious enough to leave the family on edge and make his mom question if her own home was even safe anymore. Lana had to choose what to do next. She decided to put herself first. One day before someone discovered her body, Lana Brown Bradley visited the courthouse to start the legal process of evicting her youngest son from her home. She had had enough. She set her boundaries and made a decision. She began the steps a person takes when they realize love is not enough to keep someone in your life who no longer values it. She followed every rule. She took the right approach and made it official. She handled things as we're told to, by staying calm, complying with the system, and doing things the legal way. It cost her everything. The call came in on April 4th, 2026. Lana's oldest son had been trying to call her but couldn't get an answer. That was enough to set off alarms in his mind. Lana wasn't someone who just vanished without a trace. He could feel deep down that something was off before he had any proof at all. He asked the authorities to check on her. But when family members entered her house on Melanie Road, blood wasn't the first thing they noticed. There wasn't any mess. The home was shining. Everything had been scrubbed spotless. Every corner looked like it had been cleaned. And then they smelled it. A strong, overwhelming scent of cleaning supplies filled every room. Lana's eldest son said something to the officers that made them freeze. Something wasn't right. His younger brother was never the one to clean the house, let alone in such a strange way. It felt off, like something was just wrong. The floors were slick under their shoes. Zachary, locked in the downstairs bathroom, wasn't coming out. The deputies approached the bathroom door. They could hear him moving around, still at it, still doing whatever he'd been up to before they arrived. When they opened that door, what they found shook every one of them to their core. Sheriff Travis Patton put it. A black substance filled the toilet, something no one could confuse with anything normal. Inside that toilet were pieces of his mother's body. She had been cut apart in a deliberate way to make sure anyone looking for her wouldn't find her remains. Zachary had even stuffed some of her body parts into a suitcase. This wasn't a case of panic or an emotional breakdown. This was calculated. After killing his mother, he found a suitcase, placed parts of her body in it, and then went back to the bathroom to keep disposing of what was left. Sheriff Patton described it as the worst crime he had seen in his whole career. He explained that it is the kind of case that haunts you even after you leave work. Even experienced deputies, who have dealt with things many people couldn't imagine, were disturbed by what they found in that house. The sheriff didn't like what they found inside the house. He decided they needed to search every bit of the property. The house was on 2 acres of land surrounded by woods, a bayou, and creeks. If Zachary had tried to get rid of his mom, there was a lot of space to hide something. The deputies fanned out and began combing the area. The family, who had shown up at the scene, couldn't just stand by and do nothing. They helped search too. That's just what families do when a loved one goes missing. The answers had to be somewhere on that property. The sheriff remembered it all. His deputies checked one direction. The family went another. It was one of the family members who found her. It wasn't law enforcement who made the discovery. Someone from Lana Brown Bradley's family went into those woods and stumbled on something nobody, no child, sibling, or relative, should ever have to see. The Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, along with their crime scene team, stepped in to help. People from Natchez Heating and Cooling, the Adams County Water Association, and the Adams County Coroner's Office were also brought there. The situation needed more resources than a normal investigation could handle. Zachary Lavel Jackson Jr. was arrested less than a day after the initial welfare check. Authorities have charged him with first-degree murder, second-degree murder, mayhem, and tampering with evidence. These charges carry serious weight. Legal experts have pointed out that including both first- and second-degree murder charges could mean prosecutors are preparing for different angles, addressing uncertainties about his intent and mental state as the case progresses. The topic of mental health is already part of the discussion. According to the family, Zachary showed signs of mental instability, which could play a central role in his defense strategy when the case goes to trial. However, Sheriff Patton didn't mince words about what he observed. He said Zachary wasn't acting out of control. He wasn't behaving. He wasn't disconnected from reality in those moments after the crime. Zachary was deliberate. He cleaned up the scene. He packed a suitcase. When deputies showed up, he had locked himself in a bathroom and was still trying to destroy evidence. And that doesn't sound like someone unaware of their actions. That's someone who understood what they had done and was doing everything possible to avoid getting caught. On April 28th, Zachary showed up in court and gave up his right to have a preliminary hearing. A date for the trial hasn't been decided yet. The case is still making its way through the system. People in Natchez are paying close attention. Melanie Rhodes' family is keeping a close eye, too. What happened there is something none of those involved can move on from. Natchez feels a deep loss. Lana Brown Bradley impacted the lives of countless kids in Adams County. Her influence on the community is so big it's hard to even explain. Now, many of her former students, who've grown up and started families, are struggling to understand how someone who gave so much could be gone in this way. Her daughter, Zuri Brown, shared her thoughts on Facebook after the news became public. She didn't go online to argue. Instead, she wanted to remind everyone that her mom was a person with a life of her own. She said Lana found peace in writing poetry. Lana had even been working on publishing her own collection of poems. Beneath all the headlines and the graphic stories spreading online, there was a woman who had dreams, goals, and a future she was building herself. The debate has been intense. Some demand the death penalty. Others focus on the eviction, saying it sparked everything, highlighting the visit to the courthouse the previous day as the breaking point. There are still doubts about whether every part of Lana's remains was found on that property. People are arguing everywhere online about whether this was a result of mental illness or a calculated cold plan. But under all that noise lies a harsh and heartbreaking fact. A woman followed the proper legal channels to protect herself. She did everything she was supposed to do, but she didn't live long enough to see how it all turned out. Before wrapping this up, I need to pause for a second. Not to bring up Zachary again. Not to rehash the charges, the trial, or the investigation. I want to focus on Lana. Lana Brown Bradley was 62. She dedicated most of her days to standing in front of kids who needed someone to believe in them, and she showed up for them day after day. Her life was all about helping others. Her legacy was built on love and care. She was a mother, a teacher, and a poet. She was a woman with dreams still waiting to be fulfilled when her life was cut short. She was more than just a headline. She was a mother to someone, a teacher to someone else, and an inspiration to many. She should have had the chance to age, share her poems with the world, and be honored. Not remembered this way. What went on inside the house on Melanie Road wasn't an accident. It wasn't some brief lapse in judgment. The facts, the cleanup, the suitcase, the locked bathroom door, all point to a man who made conscious choices after ending his mother's life. The people of Natchez need closure. Lana's children deserve the truth. And Lana's name should stand beside a verdict that acknowledges what was done to her. We're keeping a close eye on this case as it unfolds. We'll make sure every update reaches you. If this makes you feel sad, share it. Show it to someone who might need to see this. Stories like this stay alive, and victims like Lana stay in our hearts when people like you choose not to let them slip away. Hit like on this video. Share your thoughts in the comments. If you're not already part of this community, subscribe. We tell stories that matter, about people who matter honoring the truth of what happened. Lana Brown Bradley lived her life helping others. The least we can do is make sure people never forget her. Rest in peace, Lana.